One thing that we want to discuss is the anxiety and the depression that we've seen a rise of, and out of studies that came out of China. And also recently in the United States, we're seeing anywhere from 17 to 20% increase in anxiety and depression. So Jess, what are some tips that you think parents can utilize to, allay the fears of the kids a little bit during this pandemic?
I think number one is just acknowledging this new temporary normal. You don't want to suppress it, but you also don't want to exaggerate it. You're asking them how they feel regularly, telling them how you feel. It's okay to not feel normal all the time and to model that to your children. But really listen to them, help them name their feelings. Just by saying them out loud can help significantly just on the emotional effects afterwards. And validating how they feel. You don't have to agree with how they feel, but just saying, wow, it sounds like you're feeling this way can really help them feel more at peace.
When we talk about getting back to school, in-person school, face-to-face learning, which I think, no matter where we are on this now, I think we are all on the same page and have the same goal in mind. We want our children back in schools. I think we can all agree on that, right? So I just want to make sure we know there is no perfect answer right now, right? What may work for one family doesn't necessarily work for another family. Each family has to make decisions based on their own personal lifestyle, their family that they interact with on a regular basis, and the health of their family at baseline, right? So we just have to be mindful of that, we may have strong opinions about which way we want learning to go, but also recognize that our neighbors may have different and competing opinions about that. And there is no perfect answer. We know that being face-to-face is the best way to go, and that's what we want to do. But we also have to recognize that there are those nuances. In addition, while kids are not as high risk, there are lots of teachers, administration, and staff that work with our kids that are at high risk. So we just have to keep that in mind. So Jess, when we talk about those risks that are out there, and maybe, teachers that might have it, or let's say kids go to school and then they hear somebody has it, how can we address that, fear or anxiety? And, maybe there are some kids that say, yikes, I don't want to go back to school because I'm afraid. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think number one, like you said, acknowledging the feelings that the fear does exist. Just saying it makes it less powerful. But realizing that feelings and situations are temporary. Just that saying that this too shall pass. Really keeping that in mind, that this is not a permanent situation, and anything we can do to empower our kids and to help them see how they can help the situation will help them do better in the long run as well. And, there's lots of little tips out there. I've got 2 little anxious monkeys at home, just about life in general. They get it from me. But, there's little tips that you can do. We've been really working on mindfulness in our family. I always thought it was kind of hokey, but it really makes a lot of sense. It's just focusing on the here and now, and it gets you away from going down the path of the what ifs. And there's a whole bunch of different fun activities that you can do, or just little tasks that you can do to help bring you back, keep you calm, not thinking about the what if I get sick, or what if my teacher gets sick, and it really just brings you back. For me, I find I usually always have a ponytail holder on my wrist. And this, like when I find myself perseverating and going down like the darkened world tunnels, I'll just like snap my band and picture a stop sign in my head and say, stop. And so that way I can focus on the here and now and like redirect my attention to something else. So really just getting your kids to work on their, change of thought process. And, just by nature, some children, people, humans in general, can be more pessimistic than others, more anxious than others, but just learning that optimism and resiliency and mental strength, they are all teachable. They're all contagious. So anything you can do to help bestow that upon your children is helpful.
What are some practical, like hands-on tips that somebody could kind of pull away with to do?
Gratitude journals is a thing, but again, you got to do what works for you. Like my rising sixth grader hates writing. Like just the physical act of putting a pencil in his hand makes him want to vomit. So we don't do a journal. We sit down at the table and say, what's one thing that you learned today? What's one thing that made you laugh today? What's one thing that you're grateful for? And I think, with gratitude also, optimism, or like if we're just riding in the car and you've got a captive audience in the car, not that we're really going anywhere, but when we go to pick up our Target groceries outside, we are able to just have those conversations where we talk about gratitude. Going outside, what is it called? Ecotherapy is just very powerful. I think going outside 30 minutes 3 times a week has profound effects on your mental health and well-being. Just, go outside, do your reading outside, or lay in the grass or something like that.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you have more questions, please feel free to add them to the bottom, and we will try to answer them as best we can. And until next time, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jess.